Some were impressed by the second half against UAB. Then the Louisville trip was certainly impressive, pretty much top to bottom. Then came Florida State, and even though the Noles are down, it's a rival. It's a pretty talented rival, and it was a complete annihilation, 52-10. We got Cam Underwood, of course, on the line from State of the U. You got to join him on SB Nation's stateoftheu.com. And, of course, right here from Miami Hurricanes live. 3-0, Cam.
3-0, and it feels good. 3-0 with the fourth consecutive win against Florida State with the fourth different starting quarterback. Feels even better. It just, we're in a good place this season where we wanted to be 3-0 heading into the bye. And then, you're going to have two of the tougher games coming up back-to-back, which we're going to talk about at Clemson and then home to Pittsburgh, against Pittsburgh, I should say. But through to this point of the season, you cannot be disappointed with the results. Sure, some of the process we, wanted to see some things update or see some things, just more of it. We wanted to see the variety. At the UAB game, especially for the offense, it was kind of like, you remember those big block crayons that you had in like second grade, and they only came in 8 colors. And then the second game against Louisville, then we got the 32 pack, and then against Florida State. You kind of almost got the 64 pack with the sharpener in the back against Louisville because, making adjustments, you get these 2 plays back to back in the third quarter, both 75-yard touchdowns, single play drives, and then just, domination, continuing to still show so much on the offense. So, that's really what people wanted to see. The results are what we obviously wanted for winning all of those games. And it's gone a ways, or at least for me, to show and prove the proof of concept because, Miami has underachieved over the last 10, 15, 20 years. So that Louisville game, that was a game that Miami would have lost more times than not and found a way to win. And then, you just beat down Florida State. That was beautiful. Oh, man. So, I say all that to say I feel good.
You were here saying 47-17 before the Florida State game, and I got to admit, Cam, I thought, it's possible, but that's a little thick. That's a little much. I was in the 34-17 range, and you said 47-17, and you even made the statement, Vegas is still a little bit too enamored by the colors in the name Florida State, and I was even drawn into that a little bit too much. We're going to focus on Miami because they're the story and they're the show. But this Florida State football program, I'm not going to say team, the program is just in a bad place.
The program's in a terrible place, and this is probably the worst Florida State team of my lifetime, and I'm going to turn 40 next year, to be perfectly honest. So, do Florida State fans have reason to say, you're beating up on some of the worst teams ever? Yeah, we are. And so, too did you. When you had that 7-game win streak against some of the worst Miami teams, since Miami's been Miami. I wouldn't say the history of the program because there's a couple, 2-3 win seasons way back when. But, in the last little bit, I would say those, non-sanctioned teams, not 1997, 98, those were bad for a reason. There was, the NCAA intentionally made them bad by the sanctions that were there. And you can debate if they were earned or not, whatever. I'm not even going to fight you on that. But in my lifetime, approaching 40 years old, this is probably the worst Florida State team we've seen. And again, I didn't just go out and say that. Like, I've been on the other side, blogging and cheering and rooting for Miami teams that's been pretty terrible in the past. And I've seen that movie. You know what I mean? And I look at Florida State and I watch that first game and everything, and I'm like, no, I've seen that. I've seen that in orange and green and white before. Oh, no, this is going to be bad. It's going to be real bad. And 47-17, and I said that all week, and people were like, oh, yeah, and honestly, I undershot it. I didn't think we were going to get a 50 burger on them, and we did. But this was a clear mismatch. This was clearly two teams in very different places. Like, if you go back and look at their offense, what do they have that is really, troublesome to a defense? You got Scary Terry, who had, you and I had more yards than him because he had 1 rush for -4. And no catches. You know what I mean? You got a couple. I don't even know the names of and that's the thing. It's crazy. I don't know the names of anybody on Florida State now. I know James Blackman because I wrote about him as a potential Miami quarterback. You know that Travis kid, the backup quarterback, because all he does is run. Jay Sean Corbin, the running back who's wearing number 0. You got Scary Terry. And then Dante Lucas, because he went to Miami High and was supposed to come to Miami and ended up going to Florida State like a dum-dum. And now he's over there throwing a tantrum on the field. And he's in the meme now because he's over there pouting while we're blowing them out. Outside of that, I cannot name you a person on Florida State's offense. I can't. And that's crazy to me as somebody who follows recruiting and somebody who's been around, see, okay, these guys are coming from here, coming from South Florida. They're coming from these places. These are highly ranked kids. They don't got any star power on offense. None. And they have an inconsistent quarterback who I wrote at the time when he was a recruit. I said, if you look at the parts and pieces of James Blackman, you can see a 5-star, a 4-star, a 3-star, or a 2-star, depending on what part or piece of his physical attributes in play that you look at. Go back and look. I wrote it on State of the U. James Blackman, State of the U. I guarantee you look it up. And I made the point in a couple of different places. I did a feature on him, and then I did it in like the recruiting notebook or the class breakdown that year, a couple of years ago when I, evaluate the recruiting in every position. And I made that point because he could look like a 5-star because he has that kind of arm. And I watched him at Glade Central play against, I forget who it was, at Travis Powell in playoffs. And that man, he got NBA Jam hot. They couldn't do anything. I mean, they had 3 guys draped over him, and he's dropping it in a bucket from 55 yards with this golden arm. But also, not great at reading defenses, makes some, unintelligent throws, things like that. But that's the guy you got to play at quarterback because you don't have any other realistic option. What are you going to do to score points on Miami? Not a damn thing. And by saying that they were going to get 17, I was being very, honestly generous. You know what I mean? But it did my heart well. It did my heart good. We had the most points, 38.5, that's ever been scored by either team in the Florida State-Miami rivalry. We had the most points in the game, 52, and it could have been way more than that have ever been scored by either team in the Miami-Florida State rivalry. Ever. And could have had way more. Think about that muff punt that we had. Think about a couple of, 3 and out. Well, not 3 and outs, but we punted one time, things like that. Well, we would have had 42 at the half if we would have had more time left because we settled for that field goal only because there was 2 seconds left after Derek King ran in bounds. If we had another timeout or we had 10 more seconds, cue up the band because it's going to be a 7 instead of 6 there. They couldn't stop us. And I knew they couldn't stop us. They couldn't run with us. They couldn't hoop with us. And they still have not figured out how to block anybody on Miami's defense because Gregory Rousseau had 4 sacks himself against Florida State last year. This year, up the field, anybody and everybody making these plays. And I told you, I said it here. I said, watch out for these trick plays because they cannot block us. They cannot run regular offense. So they're going to have to go to the gadget stuff because they cannot line up and combat against us by them running offense against our defense. Go back and look at last week's stream because I told y'all that. And what happened? They come in with Travis. They go to quarterback run, which is only going to be quarterback run because he cannot throw the ball right now. Maybe eventually he can, but he cannot right now. Then you see the one that he threw for the interception because they tried to do what? Run another trick play. They tried to run another trick play, and that got stopped. They tried to run another trick play, and that one had a false start before it. And you saw them with the motion. It was a triple option to halfback pass. So they had the inside zone option, and then as you pull out to go to the other side, you had the orbit motion was the double. So that's the 2 quarterback keeping, and the 3 was the pitch. So you had 1 here, keep it. Quarterback is 2, running back is 3. That's your triple option in a spread offense. So you're running that triple. You pitch it quickly to the running back, and all of a sudden he flattens out, going straight towards the sideline. And you see a receiver who chop on the inside. It was the number 2 receiver on the play side, on the short side of the field, chop, and he tried to slip, and they called a false start on that one. And I tweeted, I said, look, that was a trick play. Why? Because they could not hoop with us. And I told y'all that. And honestly, I've seen it on the other side. I've been there. I know we got blown out a couple of times in that streak, but of those 7, 5 of them were close. But I knew when a team looks bad, I know when a team quits, I know when a team doesn't want to be there because I've seen that from Miami. And I tried to tell people. And honestly, like I said, 47-17, I was being nice about it. And it could have been a lot worse than 52-10.
Not that Cam's opinion and prognostication of the game and his analysis of the game is not credible on its own, but just to back it up, James Coleman, Florida State fullback, who loves his school as much as anyone would, was on here the other night and said they should have scored 75.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, we scored 14 in the second half, 14 in the fourth quarter after Miami Heat as third quarter, because I tweeted that because Miami Heat fans always say that they're up at the half and then they have not a third, but a turd because of, poop quarter. And that's really what it was, So we could have had more in the fourth. We definitely could have came out zip, zap, zoom in the third. Like I said, it was 52, and it was honestly a name your score game. It could have been, like James said, it could have been 75, it could have been 83, it could have been 66. We could have named our score, and we did at 52 because, we kind of weren't really fully balled in that third. But it was a mismatch from jump. But I will say some of their guys over there still played hard. I will point out specifically number 33, Amari Gaynor. That dude was hitting. That dude was out there and look, he was playing. And I know that some of the other guys on that team, they were like, okay, we're down a little bit. 33 and guarded in gold and white. But he played a hell of a game. Because if you came by him, he was hitting you hard. And I respect him for that because he could have quit. He could have given up. He could have played less physical with less buy-in than some of the other guys on that side of the ball or on that sideline even. But he went super hard. And you could it looked different because anytime you came around Gaynor, plays were being made. Miami guys were getting tackled. You were hearing the pads thumping the whole night. So credit specifically to him because he really honestly brought it 100% in spite of a pretty terrible situation because, again, they got blown out. But at least he played with that pride that you should have in your team no matter who you are or what time it is. So, again, shout out to Amari Gaynor on Florida State. He played a hell of a game, honestly.
I unfortunately missed Saturday Night Football. Had to go to work, so I put the DVR on this game and others.
Okay.
And then after 52-10, well, I saw the first quarter live, maybe the first quarter live. And then after 52-10, I ditched my obligation of keeping up with the Canes and with college football in general, Florida State, and knew, hey, between Cam, the Wholesome one, I got all sorts of contributors. They'll analyze the game, of course, anyway. So I locked in and, took in Tennessee, South Carolina, and all these other games on tape the next day. Why did I bring that up? There was a reason I made that. Oh, I noticed that early in the game that Kirk Herbstreit, even though there are other Florida State players that came into the season with more props as being better players, more talented players on the defense, that he said, based on his evaluation, this was early in the game, that he thought Amari Gaynor was the best Florida State defensive player. Yeah,
and I think that he bore that out to be true. And that's, again, with guys who are, Marvin Wilson could be a first-round draft pick. Joshua Kando is 7 feet tall with a 9-foot wingspan at defensive end. You got Hamza Nasruddin, who's working his way back from an injury. In the secondary there, you got the Jaden Woodby kid, the former 4-star, 5-star from California, who's 6'3", 6'4" as a DB with range and hitting ability and skill. Asante Samuel Jr., good cover corner, even though he's a little undersized. But you got some guys. Emmett Rice was a 4-star from Miami Norland, the same school that Isaiah Walker Jr. went to, around the corner from Hard Rock Stadium, right there on 199th and Miami Gardens. Walking distance from the stadium, and he went to Florida State wearing number 1 at linebacker and everything. So, they got some guys with names and pedigree and thing like that. But, Amari Gaynor jumped off the field to me, honestly.
And that's just an extension, Cam, of what you said in analyzing the game in your prognostication. They've got 5 or 6 or 7 dudes on defense that are really good.
Yeah.
Will be playing on Sunday, but you put them all together, and it's just not happening.
Right, yeah, it was just not enough. Akeem Dent, was a former 4-star, 5-star. He was a 5-star as a sophomore and a junior, and they dropped him to 4-star as a senior. He was committed to Miami and ends up at Florida State. And he doesn't look like he's ever going to beat Miami, in college and everything. So he flipped, and then it's been downhill on the field performance for him, things like that. And again, it's tough when you're going through that, but I have no love lost because we've been there. I've seen it. I've seen it with my team, my alma mater. So, I'm run it up, if you have that time to do it, run it up and take no prisoners because, they tried to do that in 2013-14. when they had national championship teams and Jameis Winston and Dalvin Cook, as well they should have, because it's not about making me feel good. It's about them winning. And whether it's by 1 or a million, but if you have a chance to push it towards the million, then you better damn well believe it, especially against a rival who you're supposed to be recruiting against every year and things like that. You have such a big fan base and alumni base down here and everything, and they bring the marching chiefs and everybody comes out and they're wearing their garnet and gold all the time. I work with some people who wear garnet and gold. They got garnet and gold lanyards and things like that. A friend of mine, he always wants to do the jersey swap or t-shirt swap bet, where you wear the t-shirt of the other team and everything. So haven't heard from him in a couple years. Yeah, because you know what time it is. I was wearing that garnet and gold in the mid 2010s when they were winning and everything. He wore it once in 2017. He said, "No, I'm good. I'm not going to do that bet anymore." I said, "Yo, fam, we teach at the same school. You know what I'm talking about? What happened?" "Nah, man. I don't. I like to wear my shirt and ties and everything. And even if it's a Friday, all right, okay." But yeah, man, no, I have no love lost for that. Like, look, and that's the thing that Miami fans also said throughout the course of the losing streak. It's tough. We were in the valley of discontent, but things are cyclical and it's going to change. If Florida State said, it's going to be like this forever. Yeah, chop everything. Okay, I don't know when it is, but the dawn comes after that dark night, my friend. And it's going to be there, and we're going to be on top, and you're going to be down eventually. I didn't think it was going to be this kind of down, but I thought, eventually we're going to beat them, and it's going to flip up, and you're seeing that. So I have no problem with, because again, I was there at the Orange Bowl for 48-0 to Virginia in the last game. I sat there in the press box for every single play of Clemson 58-0 and counted people in the sections of the literally counted people in the sections of the stadium in the second half. 4 people in that section. We're going to go over to the next section by the live. Okay, there's 1 person sitting in a chair by live. Let's go to the next section. There's 3 people. Let's go to the next section. There's 4. That's what I literally did in between tweeting and writing about the game during 58-0 in Clemson. I was there for all those games against Florida State. I've watched them. I've blogged about them. I've written about all those kind of things. You think I'm going to be mad that we blew them out? Hell no. Because like Jimmy Johnson said, if they didn't want us dancing, they could have kept us out of the end zone. If they feel some kind of way that we hung the most points in a half in a game against them, then maybe they should have done something if they had the ability. And clearly, it was demonstrated on Saturday night they did not have the ability to do anything, and that's why we had a record-setting performance against these bums.
Yeah, you thought you were going to eclipse them as 11-1, top 5, top type Miami, and them as an 8-4 kind of Florida State top 20, not as whatever they are. My goodness. All right, not to break the flow of the talk about the football on the field, but we've got some recruiting questions, so we can move along in the chat here. Andre Williams.
All right, let's go.
Cam, opinion on recruiting trail. T2, potential flips.
The question is about Terrence Lewis, who is T2. He was the linebacker who was formerly at Miami Northwestern, then transferred to Chaminade. They left out of there. The Chaminade program put up a tweet talking about we need people who buy into our culture. It's about it's about us collectively, not about any individual, which was a super subtweet at T2. He went back to Miami Northwestern, was there for about a month and a half, and then he went to the crosstown, the cross-hood rival to Miami Central, which I believe is where he still is now. I think he's still at Miami Central. But he's everybody's All-American outside linebacker, 6'2", 205. Big, fast, strong, committed to Tennessee right now. But basically, for those who are, have the tenure following things like that, he's like a Willie Williams from Carroll City, who was just like unblockable. He was a kid who just pretty much did anything that he wanted in high school on the field and had some troubles off of it. And Terrence Lewis is similar in both aspects. I have pause with Terrence Lewis because of some of the off-the-field things that have been discussed or reported or rumored in comparison to some other, players with character concerns or things of that nature, whatever you want to classify it as. And that's what gives me pause with him, just because I don't want a potential bad egg to ruin the bunch. Because I think that we have a great culture here now. I think that we're getting towards having guys who want to be here, that we have a cohesive locker room, similar, mentalities, similar personalities and things like that. Obviously, you're going to have, your quiet guys, your jokers, you're going to have a variety of personalities, but, you have a similar focus and goal, and it's a pervasive culture. And I think that Manny Diaz has really, really pushed strongly for that. And from what has been rumored, I'm not sure that Terrence Lewis is a fit for that. And talented though he is, for me, myself personally, that's a mental bridge I got to get over. I think that we could flip him if we want. I think that there's a desire for him to play with James Williams in high school because they are friends from the same neighborhood, even though James Williams has always plied his trade at the high school level in Broward County and Lewis and Dade, except for, the month or 3 weeks that he was at Chaminade and things like that. So there might be a camaraderie between those guys that has been spoken about before to let Lewis maybe want to come to Miami, and we'll see. But for me right now, today, October the 1st, I would say no to Terrence Lewis. Noting how good he is, I still just, I don't know, me, myself personally. In terms of flips, it's been spoken of that Malik Curtis from Bishop Verot High School has been speaking to Rob Likens, the wide receivers coach, about potentially playing offense in college. And that's what I've been saying for him ever since I first saw his film. I know that Miami was recruiting him at cornerback, but he's a guy who needs to be in space on offense. He is different fast. I mean, he is differently fast. Like he's in fast forward when other guys are in, half speed. I mean, he is outrun angle after angle after angle. If you're talking about Christian Leary from Orlando Edgewater, who's going to Alabama as being that kind of fast, Malik Curtis is similarly fast. So I would rather see him with the ball in his hand. But that then means Miami has 4 receivers in this class and 1 cornerback. And we need cornerbacks because we just had Christian Williams go to the transfer portal. So we only have 5 on scholarship. God forbid Al Blaze Jr. leaves early. I don't think he will. But we only have 5 on scholarship, and you got to have more numbers because Blades and Ivy are about to be seniors next year. I mean, depending on what they do with the eligibility clock. But, you know what I mean. They'll be fourth-year players. So whether they stay as fourth-year juniors or they leave and they play 5 or whatever it is, you gotta have replacements for the talent. You have to throw numbers at that problem of, okay, we got – 1 in a possible. And also shout out to DJ Ivy for locking down Tamorian Terry in the FSU game. You know what I mean? Like he played his best game in college by far. And he's a guy who has been maligned for, some mental mistakes and things like that. But, if you're going to have Curtis play offense, which again, I and others think that he should, where are you going to get the numbers, first of all, and the quality talent at cornerback that you need on this roster, especially in this recruiting class? So we'll see.
Sidney Smith is looking for a flip from Ja'Cory Brooks, second-rated wide receiver in the country, top 30 player, national, regardless of position, IMG Academy, Bradenton, Florida.
I mean, he's a guy who went to Booker T. Washington for 3 years before transferring over there. So, I mean, he's from the hood. He's from, the crib. And everything. He's from down here. He's a guy that, I've seen play over at Traz Powell. They've had that game against St. Thomas Aquinas a couple years ago and things like that. I mean, yeah, he's from down here. Like he goes to IMG now, but he's a South Florida guy. I would love it. Because I've seen him at camps since he was in 7th grade, and Ja'Cory Brooks has been that guy. Somebody gave me a opportunity to interview him a couple years ago. I was super busy, and I passed it along to a former contributor at State of the U, and they never followed up with that, which would have been really good work to reference now, 4 years on from the time of that potential interview. But Ja'Cory Brooks is a baller. He's a top wide receiver. He's a top 30, 25, 20 kind of guy nationally overall in this class. I'll take him in a heartbeat. But again, if you're having Curtis at receiver in this class, you got 4. You're going to take Brooks if he wants to be here because duh. But then where are you going to? Are you not taking a quarterback? Are you not taking a cornerback? Additionally, are you going to force Malik Curtis onto the defensive side of the ball? Even though, again, I think that he fits seamlessly perfectly on the offensive side of the ball, just because you need numbers over there. There are other concerns. And look, like I said, the main point is going to be this: if Ja'Cory Brooks wants to be here, we're going to find him scholarship. That's going to happen. Do I think that it's going to happen? No. Would I like to see it? Absolutely.
So savvy, Tim, $5. Thank you so much for the super chat contribution. I believe Florida State is so bad it will diminish the rivalry. We've seen that comment made in that perspective in other rivalries, how do you feel about making sure that there's some kind of balance?
Because everything comes around, man. Everything does. And that was an outlier to the series. You know, when you have the most or the worst, or like when you have an extreme like that, that was an extreme case. And I know, you know, our good friend Joey Weaver and Mike McDaniel with the Basketball Conference podcast, you know, he picked Florida State to cover, citing what I had normally said about this rivalry is different, but like you and I spoke about last week, when I was saying that about Miami versus Florida State, the Miamis that I was boosting in that statement were better than what we're seeing from Florida State now. Because Florida State's like a 2-3 win team this year. Like, I struggle to find 3 or 4 wins on their schedule, honestly and truly.
I know.
You know what I mean? But like, Miami's been 5-7 bad. We haven't been 2-win bad, which is like what Florida State is, you know? So like, it's a little different, you know, like the gap is pretty large there. But they're not going to stay down. It's not going to be like that. It's not going to continue like this. And it might take a while. And look, again, I'm from Michigan. I have friends and family who went to the University of Michigan. You know, I follow the Wolverines, and there was a time, you know, before I went to Miami, when, you know, I rooted for that 1997 national championship team. And then Lloyd Carr, the coach of that team, was consistently 9-3, 10-2. And then the University of Michigan said, that's not good enough because we should be competing for championships. And what happened? They went and hired Rich Rodriguez and Brady Hoke, and it went to hell in a handbasket. And they were abjectly terrible for a while. And then they got Harbaugh, and then it starts getting back up to that 9-3, 10-2, where, you know, Michigan at least should be, even though there was a decade where they were not that level of excellent. And I think that could portend what is for going forward for Florida State, where they were at a championship or a high caliber level. Whatever happened between the administration and Jimbo, he went to and flexed on Texas A&M, got $75 million guaranteed, and you and I and everybody would leave for that kind of money, unless you're an NBA player, because then you're getting, you know, $400 million or whatever. Baseball player, you know, Mike Trout getting $333, but everybody else is going to leave for $78 million. And then you bring in Willie, and then it slides. And now you have Mike Norvell, and it is clearly continued to slide, at least for now, right? But it won't always slide, and they won't always be an also-ran. You know, the University of Florida has 2 different 4-win seasons in the last decade. Look at what Florida is doing now. They've rebounded. They found a way to get back to being the University of Florida, the Gators, a team that is of a high-quality caliber. I don't like them, but I will admit that they are a good program. And we've seen the depths of performance similar. Well, probably this Florida State team is one of the worst that we've seen from the Big Three in recent history. But I say that to say it's terrible now, but it won't always be this kind of terrible. And when we're going to play them every year, it won't be this kind of terrible. And in a couple of years, maybe even next year, the gap is going to decrease between Miami and Florida State, simply because Florida State can't get much lower. So when they start to increase a little bit more, now they're coming closer to where we are, and then they'll get that usual rivalry game boost, and then, you know, we'll see what goes from there.
Super chat from Anthony Dates. Appreciate that. Feels like 2017 again, hopefully just for the first 10 games. Gotta love when Miami's in the spotlight. Miami's good for college football and rating.
I mean, Miami I think is good for college football money and the ratings. Yeah. I mean, like, you know, we're going to be on national TV probably with game day for the 3rd time in 4 weeks. And the only thing that's broken that up has been this bye week for Miami. You know, at Louisville, game day, ESPN or ABC National. Against Florida State, game day, ESPN or ABC National. Got a week off. You already know that we got the ABC National Clemson, 7:30 on ABC. All that's left is for, you know, game day to say that they're coming there to look at, you know, one of the better programs in America in Clemson, and also this resurgent Miami team. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's good to see, and it's an easy sell for somebody in the middle of America. Oh, Miami's on. Okay. And people want to say, oh, you know, y'all aren't relevant. Logo don't hold weight. All right. Okay. Go look at the ratings numbers, though. It's an easy thing. You know, when you have these other teams that are, you know, heating up now, it's harder to sell. But you can say Clemson, okay, because Clemson's been, if not the preeminent program nationally, one of the top 3 for the last 7-8 years. That's an easy sell. And then you say, oh, Miami. Oh, okay, Miami? I'll watch them. Miami's usually good, right? Yeah, they got all these guys in the pros. Yeah, okay, Miami. Boom. Done. Simple. That's how you get eyes.
Corp 75 is he has concocted a scenario. They have concocted a scenario with Jaron Williams leaving JUCO, going to Florida State, and would he be an improvement over James Blackman?
Did you watch James Blackman or no? Because the answer to me is, if you watch that, the answer has to be yes. And is Jaron Williams perfect? No. But does he have the Miami Hurricanes program record for touchdown passes in the game? Yes. Could we have really – I mean, it took us a while to get going against Florida State last year, but that was another game where we could have scored 40 or 50 or 60. And Jaron Williams, eventually, when we started to stretch that lead out, did what? Sat back there and dropped bombs. D. Wiggins on that post, and we ran that exact same concept this year and got the exact same result of social distancing between D. Wiggins and the defensive back. He had that one over the top to Jeff Thomas to open the scoring. Oh, yeah. I mean, he has to be an upgrade from James Blackman.
So, Cam, when I look at not just the Florida State game, but some specific plays on the road against Louisville, and you outlined the plays and how they were set up by Lashley's play calling, is this offense basically exactly the same, except for you have 2 key elements, meaning Rhett Lashley's calling plays and you've got D'Eriq King pulling the trigger?
The same as what, last year?
Yeah. Mm-mm. You could have the same offense, but have everybody else. The other 10.
Oh, wait. You mean personnel-wise?
Yes, are generally the same quality. But if you got the right play caller and you got the right quarterback, that's obviously it.
And you're putting guys in positions to be successful. Yeah, I mean, you're starting pretty much everybody. I mean, okay, so your right tackle is new because he came over from Houston. Your quarterback is new because he came over from Houston. All 3 receivers were here. The other 4 linemen were all here. The starting running back was here. The 2 other ones were, our freshman recruits. But yeah, and obviously the best tight end in America, Brevin Jordan, and then Will Mallory, who's an outstanding backup as well. The number 1A, if you will. So, I mean, that's what 11 of the 13-ish starting level guys, depending on personnel groupings, are the same. The only ones who are different are the quarterback and the right tackle, and then obviously your play caller. But your play caller is running an offense that I've been begging for, that many people have been begging for, to put people in position to make plays, to utilize the talent that we have on this roster appropriately and effectively. And you're seeing it done. And even on that touchdown pass to D. Wiggins, did you see what we did with D'Eriq King? We put him on a half roll to the right. Why? Because he's 5'10", maybe in cleats. So I can't sit him back behind center all the time and not have him move. So we design a little waggle, a little rollout to his right. We bring over Will Mallory to block. Okay, it was on Marvin Wilson. Okay, we got that throw off just in time because Mallory got enough of Marvin Wilson to give him the time. But you run the same, again, concept on the backside to get D. Wiggins wide, butt-naked ass open. You throw that ball, and that was the one when Kirk Herbstreit was like, yo, they had to practice that all week, because you saw Rhett Lashley go up and he air bumped D'Eriq King. Like I told you, we looked at it. We got the look we wanted. We called that play at the time we wanted. And I said, if you call this, if you look at me and we get this, it's going to be a touchdown. And sometimes, when you think, okay, like this might work or we're going to run this, but no. This one right here, this play is a him ball. It's going to him for a touchdown if we get the look we want and need, and it's going to this guy for a score. And I'm telling you from now on, a Tuesday install, and then you get it in the game, and then Rhett Lashley's like, yo, up top, we're going to jump up, we're going to bump, and I'm going to tell you, because, woo, boy, I told you on Tuesday, if I draw this up and we see what we need to see, that's going to be a touchdown. And I told you on Tuesday, and what happened in the game? Call it. Let's go. And that's the kind of thing that we're seeing from this offense.
Cam, I notice a slight bit of excitement.
Yeah, a little bit. Little bit, man. I was just talking about this at the Secret Day Job today. Look, I got this energy. And it I don't do other things to get this energy. I've been like this my whole entire life. Look, if I get to turn the volume up to 12, we can turn the volume up to 12. Yes, absolutely. And this is what I want to see. This is what I've been begging to see. I want us to be successful. I want us to do these kind of things where we're averaging 43 points a game through 3 weeks. Yes, that's 6 touchdowns and an extra point on top of 6 touchdowns per game. This was the team that was the only team that got shut out in a bowl game at all last year against Louisiana Tech. The same team, averaging 46 touchdowns a game. I mean, it's recess scoring. You know, when you were a kid, you went to recess and all you did was count touchdowns because eventually it's like, bro, I don't want to count by sevens. Whatever. It's 7-5. We got 7 touchdowns. You got 5 touchdowns. You got to get 2 touchdowns to catch me up. That's how we're playing football this year. You might as well count touchdowns and have that be the score, and we would still be winning by baseball numbers, 7-1, like this week. That's what it was on touchdowns at second period recess, 7-1 on touchdowns. Sure, both teams had a field goal, but that's the kind of disparate scoring that we're having. That kind of delta change, like the gulf is large, and I love it. You got these running backs out there making plays. You got little Jalen Knighton, who's not huge, you know what I mean? But he's over here and ran, who was it? Jaden Woodby. Ran Jaden Woodby over. Just put his shoulder down, bomb. So, 5'10", 180 pounds. Whatever. Train coming on the tracks. Whoop, whoop, get out the way. Oh, you 6'4", whatever? Don't care. You got, it's infectious. And you see everybody going hard. Donald Chaney Jr. gets his first touchdown as a Miami Hurricane. You got Michael Redden III get his first touchdown as a Miami Hurricane. You got N'Kosi Perry coming in and throwing that last touchdown that went to Redden. You got all these other, Derek King is making throws. And look, his numbers could again have been better without some drops down the field. The offensive numbers could have been better if Mark Pope didn't muff that one punt that Florida State got and then got a field goal on that drive. Look, man, this is what I've been talking about. This is what I've been wanting to see. And now there's some things to fix because these penalties, can't have it. Can't have it. 8 for 80, and that's with multiple personal fouls being either declined or offsetting. So you really had 12 for 140-ish if you add everything and you actually enforced all of those yards and there were no offsettings. You cannot have that. If you're trying to be the kind of team that we're trying to be, you cannot have that next week at Clemson, period. There's no way you can recover from that. You cannot give them extra plays. You cannot give them extra yards. No, you got to play a clean game. It has to be like UAB where you had no penalties or Louisville where you had 2. You know what I mean? So there are things to fix. Okay, we got to make sure that our blitzes are getting home. We got to make sure that we're catching everything. We got to make sure that, we're doing what we need to do. So there's room for improvement, sure. I would like to see a little bit more consistency from the running game. I know that we had a couple of those long touchdowns in the first 2, but we didn't have really as much in this game because they sold out and said, look, we're going to make Miami throw it to beat us. And I mean, we did because they're terrible. But, can we do that same thing against a team of Clemson's caliber, of North Carolina's caliber, of what Pittsburgh is demonstrating this season to be their caliber, especially on that defense, where, I had pushback on people saying that they had the best defensive line in America, and I don't think that they necessarily do, but it's in the top 5 because those guys get after it, even with Jalen Twyman having opted out. You know what I mean? So, again, there's lots to love, and I do love it to this point, but there's also many miles we need to go if we're going to become the kind of team that we need to be and not have this 3-0 start be a flash in the pan. And then 6 months from now, we're talking about Miami was in a great position and then, blew to Clemson and then let that beat them again against Pittsburgh and then didn't really bring it against North Carolina and then let Virginia or Virginia Tech beat them. And you got to keep going with this. Like every week has to be the week. And I know it gets to be tiresome to hear coaches say that, Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney, people in the NFL, you got to play this game and this game has to be everything. The play that we're playing has to be the most important play. Why? Because it's the play that we're playing right now, and this could be the play where they scored the points that end up beating us. So we have to give everything we have, or whatever it is. So, again, there's lots to love. There's lots still to fix. And, this is a great start. I love where it's going, but we still got to keep pushing forward.
We see the super chats coming in, so we will recognize those, and I will pop those on the screen as soon as I get to those. I will be looking for those to acknowledge those, so thank you so much for the contributions. Rodney Pino is going to add to your list of possible concerns by asking, Cam, are the linebackers Miami's biggest weakness on the defensive side?
It's between linebacker and cornerback because I know that DJ Ivey played a great game last week, but I need to see more of that. And look, Clemson, they got a bunch of good receivers, man. So it's going to be tough for, with him, Isaiah Johnson stepping up, Corey Couch stepping up as well. Al Blaze Jr. still needs to be the Al Blaze Jr. that we've seen. Whichever, if you're running the safeties out there and they're going to, have some coverage responsibilities, it's going to be that back end pass defense and then also the linebackers. But you got to really you have the ability to be malleable with the linebackers and put guys out there to suit what's going on with the opposing offense. But you really have to use these guys. You got plenty of speed. You got Sam Brooks. You got Avery Huff out there. I know Bradley Jennings is starting, but he's not great in space per se. He's good going downhill in the run game. But yeah, if you need another linebacker to be a little quicker, then there are those options out there. But I think that the linebackers did play a pretty good game. There was a little bit early on with some run fits that were not necessarily the greatest, but that is a concern for their consistency moving forward. And maybe giving a couple of guys a few snaps would be better than giving one guy a whole bunch of snaps. You know what I mean? Like, it was easy for Shaq Quarterman to play all 76 snaps on defense and not really make a mistake because he was Shaq Quarterman and he started for, 2, 3, or 4 years, depending on what year you're talking about. But maybe, just maybe, depending, it would be better to give, for example, hypothetically, it would be good to give Bradley Jennings 40 snaps, give Sam Brooks 25 snaps, and give Avery Huff 15. And then you got to own those, 40, 25, or 15. You own those snaps. But you can be you can play a little quicker, and you can kind of just keep going and pushing because that you're going to optimize those snaps because those are the only snaps you really have to concern yourself about. Not, okay, I'm on snap 2, but I got to conserve or think about snap 68 on defense because I'm going to be out here playing all those plays. I don't know if I explained that really well, but I hope that made sense to you guys.
Ashley Pownall Jr., thank you so much for the super chat. Killa Cam, Mark, what's good? Do you see us moving to 7 or 6 after the Auburn Georgia game? We must be talking about a national rankings.
Yeah.
Which, in my opinion, don't matter at all, right?
Yeah. What up to the homie AJ? I'm gonna get up with you. I know you texted me the other day, but I was busy, so I stopped texting you back. But I got you. Yeah. I mean, I think that we'll probably go up again, just because we've had 2 primetime wins, 2 big primetime wins, so that's going to stick with people. So depending on who wins the Auburn Georgia game, one of those teams is going to slide down, and the Miami should slide up. So you should be looking at a top 6, 7 matchup when the Canes go to Clemson in 8 days, 9 days.
My simple response to that is basically win the conference. Just win the conference. Win the conference, you'll be fine. Or be a 1-loss second-place team in the conference. Either lose this game to Clemson, still make the conference championship game, get the rematch, win the rematch, or something. Depending on what's going on elsewhere, the Big 12 is not going to get much play from the College Football Playoff Committee if there's some kind of tiebreaker. This could be a year in which a top-flight second-place team in the SEC, especially, of course, but the ACC as well, could make the College Football Playoff in place of a 7-game total team in the Pac-12, meaning they're only playing 7 games. That team's going to have to be perfect out there to have any chance. Yeah. And then the Big 12 having 3 of their mid-tier teams lose to Sun Belt teams is not reflecting well on the conference, and Oklahoma's already lost a game.
Exactly. So I was going to say, yeah, the mid-tier, and then you have Oklahoma already dropping 1 to Kansas State. That doesn't bode well for them. So, yeah, I mean, obviously the thing would be to win the conference or to be as high up in those rankings as possible and then move forward from there. I saw there were some bowl projections for the Peach Bowl or the Sugar Bowl, one of the bowls, some bowl. Which one is the New Year's Six in Atlanta? The Peach Bowl?
That is the Peach Bowl. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, one of those 4 prognostications for that one had Miami in there. I forget who they're playing, but one of the other prognostications was UCF against Boise. Oh, sorry, Florida against Boise State. And our guy Marshall Thomas from State of the U quoted that and was like, "Yeah, swap Boise and Miami and let's party." So let's get Florida against Miami in the Peach Bowl, in Atlanta on January whatever. Let's get that. I mean, again, it's super early. They've played one game. We've played 3. But yeah, I would like to just continue to win as much as possible because, that's why we play that's why we play the games.
Jonathan Flagg, thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. We appreciate it more than you know.
Wow, yeah.
Miami pulls the upset on Clemson and Jonathan, because I've seen your name in here and some great contributions from you, not just in the way of the Super Chat, but your comments. I'm going to back off on what I would typically be very sarcastic in detailing this comment made by you.
Right.
Miami pulls off the upset against Clemson if Baker calls his best game. We stop the run. We stop Clemson, hit Trevor early and often. Manny silences the critics with this game. Go Canes, let's shock the country.
I mean, Clemson is a machine. And, if there's a team to really be considered or be concerned against on the schedule, it's them. And, again, I'm of the mind that, we respect all opponents and fear none, but, we've seen what they can do. And we've seen what they can do to Miami, especially in the last 2 times that we've played. So it's going to take yeoman's work from everybody. Everybody's going to have to call their best game. Whether it's Rhett Lashley or whether it's John Packey on special teams, whether it's Lake Baker on defense, Manny Diaz overall as the head coach, with his game management, decisions and things like that. All the players on the field, not missing tackles, not dropping passes, not throwing errant passes, not missing blocks. It's going to take everybody playing to a level of excellence across the board and being incredibly disciplined. Because, again, you cannot give them extra chances, because Clemson right now is what St. Thomas Aquinas was and it's getting back to. They had a couple down years, but they're back up at the top. But like in the early mid, 2000s and 2010s, St. Thomas, they made you beat yourself. If you they would score and then you go 3 and out, but you went 3 plays for negative 22 yards on that drive. You snap the ball over the quarterback's head and you have a big loss and things like that. And you're punting out of your end zone. They're fielding the punt at the 40-yard, at their own offensive 40-yard line. And then they score again. They get another 3 and out. They score again. You throw an interception, a pick 6. All of a sudden, it's 8 minutes into the game. It's 28-0, and the opposing sideline's like, what's going on? Like, you know what I mean? Like they're so good that they can just hold serve and they can just, okay, we're going to just kind of go back and forth with you because you're going to make the mistake and then we're going to kill you. And Clemson is like that. If you are not able to move the ball, if you're not able to, you got to sell out against this run. You got to tackle Travis Etienne, and he's slippery and strong and fast. You got to do all of these things. But if you give them an inch of daylight, they're going to take miles and miles, bro. So it's tough. And they are so good that they don't have to do anything extravagant to let you make the mistake. And when you make a mistake, they're going to cash it in. And then all of a sudden you feel the pressure because now they've scored twice and you haven't scored. And then you're going to press to do something else. You're going to make another mistake. And then boom, they're going to be back on the field with that legendary quarterback of theirs and all these skill players and everything. And they're going to score again. And all of a sudden now you're down 21 and it's the first quarter, which again, I've seen happen firsthand with this team. You know what I mean? Look, that shot on play action to Jeff Thomas in the first quarter of the ACC championship game in 2017, we hit that shot. That's a touchdown, and it's 7-7, and the game is different. But what happened? We missed that. We had a run for a loss and an incompletion. We punted. They got the ball on our 45 after that. So instead of being 7-7, they get the ball, they come down, and they score. It's 14-0 in the first quarter, second quarter, and all of a sudden that game is different. Because that's what they can and they will do, because the level of talent and the level of performance of that talent has been so elite. So, yeah, Miami is going to have to it's going to have to be all hands on deck. It's going to be singularly focused. You cannot be on the sideline, with all due respect to Jalar Holly and everything last year. Ain't no dancing, B. Ain't no, throwing or, whacking people with rags and throwing trash on the sideline, throwing a balled up piece of paper at somebody's head. No. Nope. I got to be dialed in 100%. There can be no deviation. I know it sounds crazy that I'm being this serious about it, but that's the kind of psychotic focus it's going to take for this Miami team to get the level of talent that we have, which is it's a level below to Clemson because Clemson has been recruiting at an insane level and hitting on everybody. But to get the kind of talent that we have, which is top tier, top 20 in America, to get it to play to that kind of caliber, it's going to take that kind of singular focus. When I was a choir director, I always told my choirs that the most important note is the note that you're singing right now, because that's the note that we're making our music with. That's what we're using to tell the story of our song. Not your favorite note, not that run, not that loud part, not whatever in whichever song, whatever word, whatever part. No, the one coming out of your mouth right now. It has to be that kind of focus. And it has to be that kind of focus for Miami as well. I don't care about what you did before. I don't care if you dropped the ball. I don't care if you missed a pass. I don't care if you had a penalty. What we're doing right now, ready break from that huddle to the line, that is going to be the one that has to be our singular focus. If your coach has prepared you and said, hey, look at your keys and see, okay, if this guy goes here, maybe be prepared for that, but I can't be thinking about this other thing, or okay, what if they do da-da-da-da-da? No, I'm here and I'm reading my keys and I'm going to run my play. I'm going to do my responsibility. Alignment, assignment, and technique has to be sound every single time without fail. That's how you get there. That's how you climb the mountain and you slay the giant. It's going to take that from everybody, not just a coach, not just a player, every single person in the Hecht Athletic Center building. Whether you're on the field, off, administrative, coaching, playing, I don't care. That's what it's going to take from the moment that we beat Florida State. And I hope that you're already on this path. That's what it's going to take. Otherwise, Clemson's going to win. PeriodPointBlank.com in the story.
Guys like Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, there aren't that many at that level. It's often perceived by many, including myself, man, that guy's strange, or he's obsessed, or he's just too attention-driven to the most minute detail. Mm-hmm. That's a championship mindset. That's excellence, perfection. Vince Lombardi once stated, we aim for perfection, knowing in the back of our minds it's not reachable, but that is the goal because we will reach excellence because of it.
I've said that for my entire professional career. Perfection and nothing less has to be the goal. You know what I mean? Because if you go in there saying, and look, everybody's had those classes. Look, if I get out of here with a B or a C, I'll be happy. I'm just going to kind of be good enough or da-da-da. No, this test against Clemson is not a test that you're going to pass playing C- football, bro. It's not. You're going to need to score 100 or you're going to need to score 98 on that test. And then hopefully the teacher put extra credit on the bottom so I can get some extra credit, whether that's a couple turnovers, whether that's a freak play, a trick play. I don't know. But you're going to need to play to the top level of your evaluative measures, whatever those are, and a little extra. That's what it's going to take to beat Clemson, to put it in fine terms. So, yeah, perfection and nothing less. That has to be the goal. It has to be the goal. And you're not accepting, and let's think about it. I talked about this, and I want to find this video because it sounds incredible. But there was a video that somebody put up one time. It was an all-state music thing. And it's going to tie in. Trust me. Just trust me. Trust me. I'm going to take you on a path, but it's going to pay off. It was an all-state band or orchestra somewhere. And the director intentionally went and he marked certain notes for the kids to play wrong. And he said, okay, in music, this is what 90% accuracy sounds like. And he had them play this section with each person having 10% of their notes marked to play in an incorrect way, like a wrong note. It sounded like third graders picking up their instruments for the first time. And that was 90% accuracy. And he said, okay, cool, we're going to cut that. Orchestra, play it right. And then it sounded like beautiful music. Okay, so even a 10% variance on that was so much that you could not even tell what the music was. And it was like the Ode to Joy, that. And you couldn't even tell what it was because they were playing 10% of the music wrong. Now think about a team with 11 players on the field. If 10% of the assignments were wrong, if you're running 70 plays, times 11 guys on the field, times what 10% of that is. So you're having 700 assignments done wrong. That's 90% accuracy. That's not going to be good enough. It has to be towards perfection. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, the 1 or 2 plays that are penalties, the 1 ball that is dropped, and hopefully it's not a game-winning touchdown or something. But that's the difference at this level of performance. Again, yes, we're talking about, and I use the musical analogy to make the point in sport. If you have guys who are doing their thing to 99% and above, that's how you're going to hit this achievement. But if you have, 90%, 88% of accuracy, and again, we're talking about offensive line, running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, defensive linemen, plural, linebackers, safeties, cornerbacks, nickelbacks, kickers, punters, holders, but all these different assignments. If you're missing 10% of them, there's no way Miami can win. There's none. There's no way that most teams are going to win. So it has to be pushing towards perfection. That's how you're going to win. And we have to, and I don't know if we're going to get there, but that has to be the goal.
John Brown, hey, Cam, Mark, Syracuse beat Clemson twice. That would be once. They wasn't a top 10 team. Yes, Syracuse beat as a 4-8 team, beat Clemson when Kelly Bryant was injured in the game, which Syracuse was still credited with a win, still walked away, having beaten a very good Clemson team, a team that went to the college football playoff. Now, the next year, they were in position to win the game, but Chase Bryson replacing Trevor Lawrence completed a 4th and 6, and they pulled it out, which saved a trip to the college football playoff.
The other ones were Pittsburgh twice in like 5 years.
Yeah,
I want to say. But yeah, still, is it possible? Yeah. But again, look at what Syracuse and Pittsburgh did in those games, right? They were able to get a couple turnovers. They're able to control the line of scrimmage. They were able to keep the ball on offense. And they had multiple shot plays. They had multiple trick-ish or tendency-breaking offensive plays that went the distance. You know what I mean? Like is it possible? Yes. Is it possible at a level again where you're playing C- football? No, it's not. And if you look back at those seasons, Pittsburgh played, though I want to say 2 of their probably 3 best games across those 2 years, the times that they beat Clemson. That Syracuse game in that season, 100% was their best game of the year. That's what it's going to take. And if you're looking at what Miami's done against UAB and Louisville and Florida State, which have been, I would say, very good with flashes at certain parts of great, it's going to take great on top of great with maybe a little bit of legendary, like a legendary play or 2 on top of that. Something like, again, I've referenced it before, Charles Woodson at Michigan State in 1997, jumping 22 feet in the air, catching that one-handed, and then, getting his feet down on the interception. You want to say Jeremy Shockey over the middle against Florida State in 2000, the Willis McGahee screen pass in 2002 going up that right sideline. It's going to take greatness in a couple areas and probably something legendary like that to beat Clemson.
As is typical, we are at our zenith in regards to viewers on the line currently with 307. Therefore, that means that you've missed most of Cam's analysis of the Florida State game, and of course, Miami headed toward a date with Clemson on the road. Therefore, you wait for this video to post, and then you go back and watch it. And Cam also gave us his take on Florida State's demise, and it was eloquent, except you missed one major point, Cam, and that's that, according to Adon Bay, Mark Rogers is the source of Florida State football struggles.
Cool. Well, then let me keep going on here so they can keep struggling. Perfect.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for the great super chats across the board. I think I missed one, and what happens, again, it's just the application that I use that if it readjusts, I can't run back and grab it. So it's So Savvy Tim, it's Anthony Dates, Ashley Pownall, the Kings blog, Jonathan Flagg, Donnie Hudson. I think that's the one I missed, Donnie. Sorry about that. And LeBrent Alston and Matt Cruz. Thank you so much for your super chat contributions. Hope you guys realize what you got here with Cam each and every week. And of course, jump on over to State of the U.
Exactly. Come on over to stateoftheu.com and fan with us over there. We have some great stuff. I know it was a little bit light this week, but just a couple of things at the secret day job and in my personal life as well stop me from doing as much. But, we still have, other guys doing great things on the website. Marshall Thomas, he gets in a zone every once in a while where he He'll just bust out 22 pieces of content in 2 days. The kid's crazy. And it's all great stuff. So be sure you go and check that out. So we have all of that. We have, rooting guides coming up this weekend. We're going to have a couple open threads on Saturday for some football games. I will not be in there with you because, unfortunately, I've learned a little bit before recording last week that I have to move suddenly. So I'm moving tomorrow, which is going to suck. On like less than a week's notice, which sucks, but hey. So, hey, there'll be a new background the next time that I get on here, whenever that is. But yeah, so that among other things has precluded me from, typing out some stuff. But we have great content over there all the time. So please be sure you come on over stateoftheu.com. You can come over to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at the State of the U. I'm still tweeting at Underwood Sports, and I won't have internet in my new place until Saturday morning, and I'm moving tomorrow. So I'll probably just be on my phone on Twitter all night. So because I got power, I have my FPL account over there. And everything. So yeah, we got that going on and everything. So it's been a pleasure to talk to you guys. The last super chat comment was, am I ready to call Pitt a tougher game than North Carolina? Yeah, I am at this point of the season for two reasons. One, their defense is looking incredibly strong. Excuse me, like incredibly strong. So it's probably going to be, a mid-20s game to win. So it's going to be a dogfight. And that's the way that Mark D'Antonio's always wanted to play it. That's how they played at Michigan State when he was the defensive coordinator, and he's finally gotten Pittsburgh to that level to have the kind of.
You met Pat Narduzzi.
Pat Narduzzi. Yeah, sorry. Because he was the defensive coordinator for D'Antonio, excuse me. But Narduzzi, has gotten the program at Pittsburgh to that level where they have a strong defense and a timely enough offense. So, yeah, that's going to be tough. And you got the body blow theory. Shout out to Dan and Ty of the Solid Verbal. You're playing Pittsburgh the week after you're playing Clemson. So that's going to make it, that's going to, a level of magnitude harder because, you're going up against one of the biggest, baddest, most physical teams in America. So even if you emerge victorious, what kind of wear and tear is that going to have on you? And, in a third way, you heard what I said about the Clemson game and the singular focus. It's going to take crazy, crazy, crazy mental, emotional, and physical buy-in to win that game. But then you're going to have to ramp it back up again to the same or similar level to beat Pittsburgh. I don't know if the team is going to be able to do that. And I hope that they are. I don't know that we've seen it from them in the past. So, again, that's the thing where you're going to need to show and prove. But, yeah, there's a few reasons why, I'm going to say that right now on the schedule, that's going to be a tougher game, at least in the context of where we are in the season. Definitely the North Carolina. North Carolina is the season finale, and it's going to be a challenging game for its own reasons. But, yeah, if I would have had to rank them from here going forward, yeah, I would say Clemson, obviously far and away the toughest game, then Pittsburgh behind them, and then probably Virginia Tech, North Carolina in some kind of 3-3A, 3B formation, and you can kind of pick whichever one. But, yeah, I'm comfortable. And I was not before the season because I wasn't sure what they were going to look like. But at this point, yeah, I think it's fair to say that of the remaining games on the schedule that Pittsburgh is the second toughest behind Clemson. Yeah.
Every game's different, so you can't draw a direct parallel, but I think a lot has to be said of Pitt's performance against Louisville, in which they held the Cardinals to 223 yards of total offense.
Yeah, no, that was impressive. That was pretty locked down. And that's the thing where I was just like, that made me sit up and take notice. It's like, okay, hold on. That's serious. Because, like I said, we blew them out and everything. We beat Louisville by a comfortable margin, but it wasn't no 200 yards of offense, for them. They still were able to scheme up some stuff, got a couple late touchdowns and things like that. Pittsburgh shut all that noise down. And that is like, okay, all right, if you're shutting down the Kenny Satterfield or a Scott Satterfield offense like that and everything, and I know that, Malik McKell, I don't even know, whatever, Cunningham, the quarterback, he had that scary play where he was there down and not moving and everything. And, I wish, health and happiness for him. And obviously him leaving out of the game would impact things for Louisville. But regardless, they weren't doing, 100 or like 99-yard drives all of a sudden, and then it stopped. Like it was slow sledding for that offense, even when Cunningham was on the field. So yeah, seeing that performance against Louisville, that was like, okay, this defense is real. So that got my attention. It's not my full and undivided attention. Why? Because it's going to Clemson this week. But as soon as that game ends on Saturday or next week Saturday, Yeah, Pittsburgh's going to have my full undivided attention for darn sure.
And that was the interception that ended the game. So Cunningham played the entire
Yeah,
game.
that's right. It was all the way at the end.
Yeah, that clinched it. And my final note on this, just because I like to draw attention to my top 25, that actually makes sense. Miami is number 2 in the country, and Pitt is number 6. Now, do I believe Miami's number 2 in the country in regards to the second best team in the country? Not necessarily. Do I believe that Pitt is the 6th best team in the country? No. I rank teams based on their performance on the field, based on did they win the game, who was their opponent, and what was the evaluation of the performance. And I believe that Miami's performed better than every team in the country thus far, excluding one, and that one team only has played one game. And so Mississippi State's my number.
Mississippi State.
I'm going Mississippi State's my number one team right now. And
Really?
it is number 6.
Wow.
Where I got them ranked right now. Miami number 2.
Okay.
So there you go. All right, Cam, we always appreciate it.
Yeah, I know that was a long outro, but like I said, always appreciate you guys. You'll see me from the new place whenever that is next. And in the in-between, you guys stay solid.
All right. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the good things, and we will see you soon. And we get in another super chat right under the wire from, this guy, Michael Love. Best dealer in the game. Thanks for the content. Mark and Cam, always top-notch. Go Canes. Michael, thank you so much. And again, the best-looking avatar online. That's all there is to it. Thanks, Michael. Thank you, everyone.